Okay, guys, this is Mr. Cannon here. I'm your teacher this year for U.S. Government, and this is our live lesson called Essentials to Success. This lesson is going to teach you how to be successful in this class. And so, before we get started on the class itself, let me tell you a little bit about myself. You can see me there. That's Mr. Cannon and my wife, Lindsay. That was our anniversary a few years ago, and we have three boys. Jackson Lee is the oldest. He's the one with the blonde hair, the tall one, and then Hudson is our middle child, and then Graham is our youngest. Jackson Lee's 9, Hudson's 6, and Graham is now 3 years old. And so that's my family. We love the Gamecocks. Me and my boys love to play sports. We're big sports nuts, and we love to serve in our church. And in fact, every now and then, my church allows me to preach, so I get to do that at my church, which is Riverbend Community Church in Lexington, South Carolina. We live here in Lexington. My wife has taught for 13 years, and this is my 18th year teaching. Currently, my wife is now the children's ministry director at our church, and she doesn't teach anymore. Okay, so one of the things that you need to have if you're going to be successful in any class or in anything, to be honest with you, in life is commitment. Is you can desire something, but I love that quote from Mario Andretti that says, desire is the key to motivation, but it's a commitment to excellence that will enable you to attain the success you seek. So I can desire to be a great basketball player, but if I'm not in the gym every day working on my game, I don't care if I desire it, it's not going to happen. I have to be committed to making it happen. And as a student, commitment allows you to actually live on your own terms. If you're committed to doing well in school, committed to doing your work, then you'll get to, and especially at Whitmore School, where it's school your way, you get to determine what time you do that work. You get to determine what you do outside of school. You get to determine how much time you have to spend studying when you're committed to success. And so be committed, and you get to do things on your own terms. Now, how to maintain that commitment? You need to refine your goal. Make sure that you have specific goals. Don't just have a goal of I want to do well in school. Have specific goals like I want to complete government in 2 months or 3 months. I want to get an A or a B in government. Those are specific goals. Make sure you focus on what's important. Hold yourself accountable. If you say I'm going to work for 2 hours every day in government so that I can finish it in a month and a half or 2 months, then make sure you hold yourself accountable and have a partner to hold you accountable. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's a friend, someone else that goes to school. And make sure you get your mind right. If you want to have commitment to something, you have to have your mind in the right place. If you have negative thoughts, it's going to be hard to maintain that commitment. Okay, let's talk about posting in my class. Now, I ask that you paste all the questions and answers into the lesson submit box because that makes it easier for me to grade. I can do that much quicker when you paste your stuff into the lesson. You want to always, I said type in the lesson, but you don't want to do that. You want to actually type in a program. In your case, Google Docs would be a great program to use because you all have access to Google since we are a Google school. One great thing about Google Docs is it saves all your work for you. So if you do your work and then you paste it into the lesson, and for whatever reason it doesn't paste correctly, and I say, hey, I need you to repost this, then you won't say, well, I don't have it anymore because I typed it in the lesson submit box. The lesson submit box will not save it for you. So if it disappears, it's gone forever. If you paste it from Google Docs, it will always save it, and it will be in your Google Drive, and so you'll always be able to access it. So I urge you to use Google Docs and then paste it from there. Make sure you mark all partial post as partial post. That way I know that you don't intend for me to grade it or give you feedback at that point. You're just turning in a partial post. Now you get one partial post for every lesson, but that partial post still has to have at least an hour's worth of work for it to count. So if you turn in a post and you've got one question answered and you don't show me that you've done any notes or any other work, I'm going to have to mark that as an unqualified post because you haven't shown me that you've done an hour's worth of work. So even if you're doing a partial post where you don't actually finish the lesson, make sure that you do enough work or show me that you've done enough work to count for at least an hour. Make sure you ask all questions well, especially all questions in a teacher message. If you have a comment you need to make to me, make sure you do that in a teacher message. Teacher messages are the first things I check in the morning and the last thing I check before I go to bed at night. So if you have a question, you put it in a teacher message, you're going to get that answer much quicker than if you ask me a question based on my feedback in the lesson itself. So let's say you turn in a lesson, I give you feedback. If you put a question as your next post, I will eventually see that question, but it's going to take a little bit longer. And it's not going to count as a qualified post, so you're actually costing yourself in some cases half a day or a day's work. So make sure you ask those questions in a teacher message. That would just be easier for us to keep track of it. Make sure you use spell check and proofread for grammar. I have a lot of students that do great work, but they turn in work that has like 8 misspellings, and I have to take points off for that. If you use spell check, you may still have some errors, like 2 and 2 and there, but it catches a lot of the errors. Spell check and grammar will catch a lot of the errors. So make sure you use that spell check, and make sure you also proofread for grammar, because that will obviously earn you points by doing so. Now let's talk about each lesson. How can I be successful in each lesson? Government is not a very difficult class, but it is one that has a paper to it. So you have to write a paper. Well, I'll talk about that paper in a minute. For every other lesson outside of the paper, you need to make sure you're watching the video at the top of the lesson. Every lesson has several videos in it. Most of them have a video PowerPoint at the very top that you will use to answer the questions in the lesson. There may be a few lessons that don't have a PowerPoint at the top or a video at the top, but most of them do, and that's going to be the key to being successful in the class. Make sure when you watch those PowerPoints and videos that you take notes on them, and that then after you finish that you read the text underneath the video and take notes on those as well. Almost all of the lessons you'll be able to do no problem as long as you're watching those videos and reading the text. If you're not, if you're trying to just look up answers on Google, first of all, you're taking way too much time to do so. And secondly, you're not going to find the answers you need to find in every case. You might find some of them, but you're not actually learning the material we want you to learn. I promise you, if you watch those videos at the top of each lesson, it's going to be much easier for you and much quicker for you to do well in the class. Now, I want to make sure that you understand, if you ever get stuck, don't get frustrated and just quit posting. Make sure you send me a teacher message and ask me specifically what you're stuck on, or tell me specifically what you're stuck on. Tell me the lesson and the number, and I will get back to you and explain it in a way that hopefully will help you get unstuck. If it still doesn't get you unstuck, if you're still like, I just don't understand this, Mr. Cannon, make an appointment to meet me in Google Hangouts, and I'll have my calendar available to you right on your page so that you can easily see when you can make an appointment. I'll have office hours 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. If those times do not work for you, let me know. Don't just say, oh, well, I can't meet with Mr. Cannon because he doesn't have a time available that I can do. Let me know, even if it's something where you work all day and you don't do your schoolwork until night, and you're like, I can't meet until nighttime. Let me know that, and I will try to work around it and make sure that I'm going to make sure I can meet with you. Even if it's not necessarily the very next day, I will make sure I schedule a time to meet with you, even if it doesn't work in my office hours. I will work around that. So but you have to let me know that, so I'll know to set time aside outside of my office hours. Let's talk about the paper. Okay, so there are 3 lessons in the 20 lessons you will complete that all revolve around an argumentative essay. You're going to write an argumentative essay. The 3 lessons are lessons 5, lesson 10, and lesson 15. Lesson 5, all you're doing is picking your topic and researching to get information to make your argument. So lesson 5 is all about research. Lesson 10, you're actually going to come up with a thesis and you're going to do your outline. And then in lesson 15, you'll actually write the paper. By dividing it up into 3 different lessons, it will hopefully make it easier for you to write this paper. Now, I've had students in the last year that go to write the paper in lesson 15, and they always ask the question, what is the topic of the paper, Mr. Cannon? And I always have to tell them, you picked the topic in lesson 5. A lot of my students don't understand that lessons 5, 10, and 15 are all connected. They all deal with the same thing, and that is the argumentative essay. So whatever you research in lesson 5, that's what you're going to write about in lesson 15. And that's what you're going to do the thesis and outline for in lesson 10. And certainly the paper, the essay, is probably the most difficult part of the class, and something I will be happy to work with you on and help you to do the best job that you can do. The big thing is, don't get so frustrated that you just quit posting. Make sure you stay in touch with me. Let me know when you're struggling, and I will be here to help you. It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to teaching each and every one of you and helping you get through this class, and I know you're going to do great. Talk to you soon.